All right, guys, here is the ingredients for a French omelet. Your basics are eggs, water, fresh ground black pepper, and some finishing salt. Right here I have some pink Hawaiian finishing salt and unsalted butter. Today we're gonna do an omelet with smoked salmon, capers, Parmesan, and then this is some fresh tarragon from my garden. We're gonna start with the 3 eggs, maybe a teaspoon and a half of water, pinch of salt. You can go kind of light on the salt since the capers and the smoked salmon are gonna be quite salty, and you can always adjust later. Do some black pepper. We're gonna use a fork as opposed to a whisk to mix it up because it gives it a little better texture. Some people use no water. Some people use milk. The benefit of adding extra dairy or extra liquid to the omelet is when the liquid evaporates, it makes the eggs lighter and fluffier. Some people prefer it smoother and more custard-like, but for today, we're gonna do a little extra water. I'm gonna make sure to break up all the sinews that are left over in the whites. Make sure it's a nice smooth texture for when you start your omelet. That looks great. So if you were gonna do a basic omelet, this is where you could pause and or add whatever other ingredients you would like to add. Regular omelet or extra. For this one, we'll do some capers. I like capers a lot, so I'm gonna probably do maybe 15 capers, but you know, maybe people don't like those, you could do a little less. And maybe an ounce of smoked salmon. Doesn't have to be this chunky kind, it can be the smooth type as well. Mix that all together, and here is our omelet. All right, so we're gonna start our pan at a medium temperature. Make sure it's nice and warm. You get that butter in. The key is you don't want the butter to brown. You want it to just melt down. And don't be shy with the butter. If you're cooking this for yourself, for a light breakfast, maybe do 1 little pat of butter. If you're cooking it for a guest and you really want to impress them, key is always extra butter. Get a lot of butter in there. That's where all the flavor is. So now we got a nice bubble. You want the eggs to go in to a nice hot oily pan. Let this little bad boy melt. And here we go. So the key with a French omelet, as opposed to an American or a diner omelet, is you kind of want to do a soft scramble with really small curds. You don't want a big, chunky omelet. You want it smooth. You want it barely cooked, just cooked through. My number one trick I like to tell people is as you're cooking the omelet, don't be afraid to pull it from the heat. Just because your stove is at medium, keep your stove the same. The stove doing its same thing is gonna be fine. That can just chill. But pull your pan up. If it seems like it's getting a little hot, pull it up to slow down the cooking process. The key is you want the eggs to just barely cook enough to be cooked all the way through. And you want to constantly agitate it so as it's cooking, you don't build up big, chunky curds. Be sure as you're going, don't be afraid to move the pan back and forth with the addition of using your rubber spatula. Pull it off the heat when it's getting close. Constant agitation, constant agitation. A big one people always forget is to scrape the sides. Scrape the sides. So here we go. It's undercooked on the top. I'm turning off the heat now. It's undercooked on the top. It's a little glistening, but we're gonna let it sit there for a second, let the bottom cook. Right now, we're gonna add our fresh tarragon. You can do chives, parsley, anything really. I'm a big fan of tarragon. And pull that off the heat, make sure it doesn't overcook. And we're gonna add our Parmesan cheese. Lots of butter, lots of cheese. That's the secret. If you wanna make sure something's good, there you go. So here's our omelet. To get the omelet out of the pan, I prefer to do a rolling method. Some people do a trifold. I like to just barely get this little wedge up. Roll it out on itself. And gently, delicately get it right into your plate.
Rolled method, where you just barely let it roll over itself. Just a little bit at a time. This is like very metaphorical for life,
You want to be firm, but you don't want to bust it. You can't be passive with it. You need to make it sure it does what it needs to do, but you can't quite completely force it and break it and have it give up on you. So here we go. This is our omelet. Here's a little secret too. Maybe don't do this day to day, but if you have guests come over, here's a little third pat of butter. We're gonna do it. And give it just like a nice ear of corn during the summer. Give it a little extra butter. Don't tell people you're doing this because they're gonna think you're crazy trying to kill them. That little extra butter gives it a nice glisten. And here you go, your basic French omelet. I like to serve omelets frequently with some fresh grains and light vinaigrette. It's super fatty, so something fresh and acidic will really cut through it nicely, and some fruit is always good too. So there you guys go. Pretty straightforward process for making an omelet. Pretty much everything you can find around your house. The two pieces of equipment I really recommend are a 8-inch non-stick pan. I would recommend really only using it for eggs. If you use it for other things, ultimately it's going to deteriorate and your omelets will stick, making your life a lot more difficult. This is the brand that I have. You can spend as much as $100, I'm sure, but for the most part, that'll be a little overkill. I also really like a rubber spatula such as this. It's nice having a curvature here and then a nice square edge here. Yeah, hope you guys all make some omelets.